Oh, 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 I'm sorry, Barry. Oh, oh. Dude, I'm so sorry. Hold up, Barry. I get you fixed up in a jiffy. Uh, just, yeah, that's, that's good. That's good. All right. Yeah. All right. Hey, Barry, you ready, ready to do a geography, Barry? Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking101 here, and welcome back to another splendidly umptious episode of Geography is Everything! That's right, but today we're going to be dialing it back a little bit. We're going to be leaving the stormy, tumultuous waters of paradise and the New World and the Calm Belt. Well, I guess the Calm Belt's not really stormy, because that's why it's called the Calm Belt. It's calm, but it's scary calm. That's what makes the Calm Belt terrifying. But anyway, no, we're going to be dialing it back. We're going to go back to the East Blue in this one, okay? And I don't typically make a lot of videos around East Blue Islands on Geography is Everything. We talked about the Goa Kingdom on Dawn Island, which is where Luffy's from, and we talked about all the four blues in like a generic video. But really, I just don't talk about the East Blue Islands too much and the four blues because the islands aren't really that crazy. I mean, that's the fun part of One Piece, where they go to these wacky islands like Enies Lobby or the Sabaody Archipelago, which isn't even an island, but still, it's cool. It's a cool archipelago. Raijin Island, which we know I just love. Like Totland is crazy. But the East Blue, by contrast, they're pretty normal islands, like the Gecko Islands where Usopp grew up, or the Organ Islands where Orangetown was located, where Buggy took over. They're just regular islands and regular towns. The Baratier is pretty unique. And, Arlong Park, of course, although even, like, outside of Arlong Park, just Kokoyashi Village. Kokoyashi Village is, like, just a tropical island. There's really nothing crazy to that other than Arlong Park, so I might make videos about those at some point. But, there is one location that's very significant, because as we all know, I mean, I'm sure most of you knew this, I'm hoping, Geography has a sister. Of course, Geography has a sister. Do you know the name of Geography's sister? That's right. It's history! That's right. History and geography, they were born into this world together, and they'll die together. They walk in lockstep, and they, work together to make social studies the most amazing subject ever, okay? At least, that's how it worked in American schools. When I was in elementary school, they didn't have history class and geography class. They just, glomp them together into one thing and then threw them at us. And some years we didn't even have it. But yes, of course, history and geography are both equally important, and this is a location in the East Blue, which is extremely historically significant to the population of the One Piece world, because this is the place where the Great Pirate Era began with a mighty roar! That's right, 24 years ago, with the execution of pirate Gold D. Roger. He sat upon the scaffolding in the town square, and his last words bellowed to the mighty crowd. "You want my treasure, mateys? Well, you can have it! I left it somewhere out there in the Grand Line. Now you just got to find it! Or not, I don't really know. I'm out! Peace, Roger!" And then he just gets executed, and there's blood everywhere. But there was not cries of sadness. There was a mighty roar of excitement. All the people in the crowd that day were inspired to head out to the Grand Line to find the ultimate treasure and become the next king of the pirates. And the place where that all went down was an island called Polestar, in a town called Loguetown. That's right, you can get any kind of log you want there. You want this log? You go to Loguetown. This log can be yours. But no, not log in like the literal sense, but no, talking about logs as if in a story. A prologue and an epilogue. And it makes sense given the fact that in terms of Roger's life, this did serve as the prologue and epilogue, as the bookends of his life. Because he was born in Loguetown and he died in Loguetown. So the prologue, epilogue, you get it? Although, of course, the first time I saw this arc was during the Four Kids era, where they changed it to Roguetown. Now, this one is actually not that bad, because first of all, we understand the L and R thing in Japanese. I don't think I have to explain that to you guys for like the 50th millionth time, but essentially, yeah, the R sound can sound very similar to the L, so, switch back and forth, right? And translations make that error a lot of times. But even with that mistranslation, it still kind of works, right? Like Roguetown, because Roger was a handsome, dashing rogue. He had a mustache, right? So either way, it kind of worked, right? Yeah, so I kind of say I like the log analysis better because it works more for just Roger. This also serves as essentially the end of the prologue for Luffy and the Straw Hats journey, because the East Blue, that's pretty much what it is. All of the East Blue saga is essentially just the prologue for the greater story that is to come when the Straw Hats land in the Grand Line, right? A prologue which lasted 99 chapters. Oda was very dead set on starting the Grand Line, them arriving at Reverse Mountain at chapter 100. And he didn't really have a lot of chapters to play around with Loguetown for that reason. The Straw Hats get to Loguetown in chapter 96, and at the end of chapter 99, they leave Loguetown bound for the Reverse Mountain, okay? I think Oda still really wanted to include a buffer. He could have, because, like, Arlong Park, for all practical purposes, is, like, the climax in terms of action of the East Blue, because that's when Luffy goes up against Arlong, saves Nami. Arlong is the most wanted man in the East Blue. He has the highest bounty of 20 million. Luffy defeated Don Krieg and Kuro, and he, Zoro basically defeated Morgan, but Luffy took care of Helmeppo. Yeah, and also Buggy, right? So he defeats all these major villains of the East Blue, and then he takes out Arlong and saves Nami and her village, and they're all grateful. Oda could have easily had them just sail directly from Arlong Park into the Grand Line, and I think we could have rode on that excitement. Like, okay, Luffy's conquered the East, he's got a bounty of 30 million, he's ready to take on the Grand Line. But I think Oda is like, no, I want to have a little something in between, like a transition, where Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats can kind of rest for a little bit, but also just Luffy can reflect on his journey so far and what he's really getting himself into, okay? All the stuff that you went through up until this point, you know, all the villains you fought, even Arlong, that is nothing compared to what's coming up next, right? And that moment where Luffy wanders into the town square and he sees the scaffolding, and you see that scene just right here where it's just Luffy and the scaffold, and Luffy's looking up at it and he's like, that's the place. That's the place where the Great Pirate Era began. It's just like the emotion just washes over him. And he climbs up on the thing, of course, because he's Luffy. But it's really significant to show, like, this is the epilogue of your prologue, the beginning of your adventure. This is where Roger was born and he died, so his prologue and epilogue. This is where so many pirates, Crocodile, Doflamingo, Gecko Moria, Mihawk was in the audience. Like, all these people that witnessed Roger's execution that day. Yeah, some of them, their adventure had already begun. Like, Doflamingo was already kind of a crime boss at this point. But other people like Moria and Crocodile, witnessing Roger's execution was the prologue, the starting gun to their individual journeys, heading out to the Grand Line. Crocodile and Moria both wanted kind of the same thing that Luffy wanted at the very beginning. They just want to conquer the Grand Line and become king of the pirates. And Crocodile got beat down by Whitebeard, Moria got beat down by Kaido, and they kind of readjusted their goals and ambitions, or they still had the like, Crocodile still wants to take over the world, but he's like, I'm gonna do it a different way. Moria is like, well, I'll take over the world, but I'll just make a bunch of zombies to do it for me, man. Moria really let himself go. He was eating way too many ho-hos and Twinkies in between, you know, when he fought Kaido and where he was at during Thriller Bark, right? Okay. But yeah, so I love the references there, prologue, epilogue. I think it makes a lot of sense there. Also, log poses, which are the compasses of the Grand Line. I also have a reference to that. And I feel like, considering Loguetown is so close to the Grand Line, this is like the final pit stop before you get to Reverse Mountain. It's a place where pirates stop, Marines. There's a Marine base on the island, of course. That's where Smoker and Tashigi got first introduced back when Smoker was a captain and Tashigi was a Master Chief Petty Officer. You know, but just merchants, you know, citizens, everybody that's on their journey stop at Loguetown to acquire provisions. And I would also imagine to, like, hey, this is like the point of no return. It's kind of like, all right, you want to go to the Grand Line, do you? Well, stop at Loguetown for a little while, go into the bars, talk to some people that have been there before, and see if you still want to go there, okay? Because it's still very much known as a piratey graveyard. In fact, I can imagine, like, a pirate crew landing at Loguetown and being really excited, like, mateys, we're setting out for the Grand Line first thing tomorrow morning. Grab yourself some provisions, drink some grog, have a good night's sleep, because we're heading out. And I can imagine them spending all the great time at Loguetown, like, we're going to the Grand Line, it's gonna be great. And then, like, the very next day at the same time, they get to the Grand Line and they're just, like destroyed by a storm or something, or a sea came up and devoured their ship, and they're just like, no, we were too early, you know, our hubris! And then they died, you know? So this is, like, probably the cheers of excitement, but at the same time, it's like, you're going to a really, really dangerous place. Just keep that in mind, right? But yeah, okay. So in terms of the island itself, the Pole Star Island, from as far as we know, Loguetown is the only town on the island itself. But there are like rolling hills and other like there's a countryside to it as well. But Loguetown takes up most of it. There's a harbor, of course, where the Straw Hats arrive. The town square, of course, where the scaffolding is placed. And it's funny that the world government does not take that down, isn't it? Like that's the place that's probably the sign of one of their worst mistakes, where they decided to publicly execute Roger in the hopes that his death will signify, you know, the end of pirates. It'd be like, hey, we caught the king of the pirates. We're executing him in the East Blue, which is the symbol of peace. And then that'll bring a new era of peace into the world. And Roger took that, man, and he just flipped that right in like a perfect 180. And he's like, oh, okay, you think this will cause peace, do you? And his dying words kickstarted the worst era of piracy for the entire world government, right? So you'd think that the government would be kind of embarrassed by that and be like, yeah, tell you what, take down the scaffolding, and if anybody dares to even mention Roger's name in town, just arrest them, you know, because the world government's kind of totalitarian like that a little bit, right? But anyway, they still have there, it's more of like a historical site. The entire town of Loguetown, and I just found this out while doing research for it yesterday, it's actually based on Florence, Italy. Of course, I've never been, although it looks like a rather beautiful city in my humble opinion. There's like a clock tower and a cathedral that Oda incorporated into the manga sort of in the background. As I said, Loguetown was really rushed kind of in the manga because Oda really wanted them to get to the Grand Line. So in the anime, it's expanded on a lot more. There's also a Loguetown novel, like a visual novel. So a lot of the stuff that happens in the anime, like remember Daddy Masterson, Daddy the father, who appears and like challenges Usopp to that sniping duel. Yeah, that actually happens. Like, Oda wanted to do that, and it does appear in the novel. It's just, I didn't have time to include that. It would have really made sense. It would be beautiful because, you know, Daddy Masterson knew Yasopp, Usopp's father, so I could have seen that fitting perfect. Like, in my mind, that's basically canon, you know, like, Usopp meeting this man that knew his father, telling him stories about Yasopp and how cool he was and how he's the greatest sniper in the world, and Usopp's like, yep, that's my dad, I'm gonna follow in his footsteps. You could have fit that in there. Also, in the anime, we have the cooking contest between Sanji and Carmen. That is probably one of my favorite episodes of One Piece. I do not know why. I could not... Well, Carmen is pretty damn hot. I mean, she's Carmen, right? She even had a cameo in Stampede. That's Stampedo, sorry. I don't know if you noticed, but at the beginning of Stampede, when they arrive at the Pirate Expo, and Nami sees that, like, that prize money for, like, a sexy pirate, you know, Miss Pirate contest, she wins, of course, but you also see Carmen as one of the applicants in that sexy pirate costume. So, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? But yeah, the cooking contest to win the elephant bluefin tuna, yeah, I really enjoyed it, even though, you know, the 4Kids dub was how I got exposed to it, and they had that damn cooking, you gotta cook it up, yeah, you gotta hold that spatula proudly, you know, that's a song I wish would be removed from my head, but probably never going to happen. That's probably going to be, knowing my luck, that'll probably be the last song I think of before I shuffle off this mortal coil, you know, at the age of like 88 or whatever. I'll be sitting there on my deathbed like, you gotta cook it up, yeah! You know, that'll be how that goes. In the manga, I believe Sanji just buys the damn fish. You know, he does like a normal thing and just goes up to a fish stand. Sappi was the muscular dude with a fin for a head. He was the one that actually sold Sanji the thing, the fin tuna. In the anime, he was the one that was sort of like the MC of the cooking contest, so that was cool. He kind of I like Sappi. He reminds me of the Slide and Go hero from My Hero Academia. Like, they kind of look similar, like big buff dudes that have like a constant grin on their faces, right? I could see that. In fact, Sappi might be working for the Liberation Army. I don't know. Don't trust him, right? That was also a really interesting scene, because that's when Sanji first really started elaborating on the all blue a little bit. He was like, you know, we see this map and we see north, south, east, west blues, and then he's talking about how, you know, certain ocean currents could bring fish together, and there's that one holy place where all fish are united in one location, right? Because remember, like, Loguetown is in many ways a merchant town. The Marines have the capabilities of traveling through the Calm Belt, so maybe they bring certain things. Like, there's plenty of shops. Like, there was a shop that Usopp went to buy his goggles that he brings into the Grand Line, and they're from the South Blue, I believe. It's like, this is a new model out of South Blue, and so Usopp's looking there, but you figure, like, going from the South Blue Blue to the East Blue, where Loguetown is, would not be easy, because you'd have to travel through a comm belt, then Paradise, then the other comm belt to get to the east. So it's not very easy to get this stuff, right? But that's where Usopp bought his goggles. There were plenty of other shops there. There was a place called Rebecca Honberg, which is like a designer clothing shop where Nami tried on a bunch of outfits, and you know the guy that runs it is named Hanger because his hair looks like a hanger. So hey, that's marketing right there. That is ingenious. He is very dedicated to his craft. But yeah, Nami's coming out of the dressing room in all these fantastically sexy outfits, and he's like, "Oh, electrifying! Oh, you're so erotic! Oh, you're so exasperating, my dear!" Yes.
I don't know that.
Well, I do, Alexa. I know Nami's sexiness. She's just like, yeah, I got nothing to say to that, Matt. You are aware of Nami's sexiness. But no, yeah, so Nami comes out with all these outfits, and Hanger is just like, "Oh, okay, but which ones would you like, ma'am? I can ring them up as you please." And then Nami's like, "Nah, I kind of want something that's easier to move in. These are just like really fancy evening dresses." And sure, she just dumps them all on the counter and then just walks out. Right next to the Rebecca place, there's the glove factory. The glove factory. Why is there a glove factory? Actually, I looked into it, and it turns out the glove factory is a place in Florence. So, okay, you know what? Honestly, like, my gloves are pretty crappy. I mean, look at these gloves. These are like crappy dollar store gloves. And these look like really fancy gloves, I have to say. I mean, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to the glove factory. I'm going to Florence to buy me some gloves. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Oh man, look at these gloves. These are nice-ass gloves. All right, yeah. By the way, Florence Magnifique. Although I literally just went there to buy gloves and I immediately came back. But it looked pretty cool, right? Go Italy. All right, so the glove factory, that's a place we unfortunately don't get to see inside. But we also get to see the antique house. And this is the place, you would think the antique house sells antiques, right? Like, but no, it's actually a clothing store. And this is the place where Nami buys all of the outfits. And I like to think that all of the sexy outfits that Nami wears throughout the first half of the Grand Line, she purchased at this store in Loguetown, all right? She was getting ready for it. So her outfit during Ennie's lobby, you know, that was pretty sexy. Her Thriller Bark outfit, you know, her Skypiea bikini, she probably bought them all at the antique house. And Skypiea, bikini, Nami, boobs. I'm sorry. I'm getting sucked into a sexy Nami loop, and that's not good for everybody. You get sucked into that, you're not coming back out. Okay, so all right, fine. So yeah, the antique house where she buys her clothing. There's also the arms shop, of course. Probably the most famous shop in terms of like the fandom, because this is where Zoro bought the Sandai Katetsu. He didn't really buy them; he just got them from the shop owner, Ippon Matsu. He gets the Sandai Katetsu and the Yubashiri. In the manga, reading through it, we actually get a little bit more of information about Ippon Matsu and his shop. In the manga, he specifies that the shop has been in his family for 200 years, for a very, very long time, and that the Yubashiri that he gives Zoro, the Ryo Wazamono, is actually their family heirloom, like passed down from the generations, like was not for sale. And then finally, Ippon Matsu witnessed Zoro do the whole test with the Sandai, and Tashigi was there and everything. And I've made a lot of videos on swords in the past few weeks. I think I've talked about this scene recently quite often, so you know, I'm not going to focus on too much detail. But he goes and gets the Yubashiri and gives it off to Zoro, and his wife is like, "Wow, you handed away that family heirloom pretty quickly." And Ippon Matsu is like, "Damn straight I did, because that right there walks a real swordsman." And unfortunately, I don't think Ippon Matsu is aware, though, that Zoro's Yubashiri got destroyed by Shu during Ennie's lobby. It got rusted away, so probably wouldn't feel that too good about that. But he still really looks up to Zoro and idolizes him. We actually get to see Ippon Matsu and his wife after the time skip. We see him in a cover page where he's cleaning the bathroom, and he puts like a giant picture of Zoro like covered in like cellophane in the shower. So literally when Ippon Matsu's taking a shower and soaping up his crotch every day, he's looking at Zoro's picture right at him. He's like, you're a real swordsman, Zoro. You're awesome. You're everything I want to be in this world." So, little bit weird, but, you know, he cares about Zoro. Hey, let's be straight up here. Okay, everybody's got a One Piece character plastered inside of their shower, but, you know, we don't all talk about it, okay? But it is a thing, right? If you guess which one mine is, then you win a cookie. Also, funny thing in the 4Kids dub that I find hilarious is that Ippon Matsu's wife in the 4Kids dub is his mom. And I think that was like kind of like, all right, let's make it a joke. Like he still lives with his mom and he's, you know, selling swords and stuff. He's like, I can't, Ma, I can't let him not leave with that sword, you know, whatever, or something like that. But that's kind of weird / funny. So we'll just roll with that, I guess. There's the Marine base, of course, where Captain Smoker rules over. That's the first time we get introduced to him. Remember back when Smoker was first introduced? He was like a really no-nonsense and intimidating kind of guy, right? Where he's like, you know, all pirates that come into Loguetown are gonna get captured by me. And he was pretty serious. He was nice, though, as well, because remember the scene when the little girl dropped the ice cream on his pants and Smoker was like, oh, how silly of me, little girl. It looks like my pants got in the way of your ice cream. Here's some money. Go buy some more. Okay, off with you. So he was a good guy. He's a good-natured guy, but he was also a no-nonsense Marine that had the first Logia introduced into the story. And, man, this brings me back, because I can imagine, like, if YouTube existed back when Loguetown was first animated, and there were YouTube anime reviewers of One Piece, I can imagine people like, whoa! Smoker's power is so ridiculously broken! How could Luffy possibly manage to hit him? He's like the strongest guy in the entire story! Because at that point, I mean, he kind of was, you know? But then Dragon shows up, and it's like a lightning bolt that saves Luffy, and they manage to get out of town, and it's crazy. Oda was really hyping us up there with Loguetown a little bit. Like, we get the first Logia user, we get Buggy coming back, we get Buggy being defeated, we get Sexy Alvida! That's something to mention, and then we get Dragon just capping it all off, although we didn't know who he was yet. I mean, Smoker uses his name Dragon. I want you to think about that for a moment. Smoker's out in this town in the east. Dragon is the most wanted man in the entire freaking world, right? And then Smoker, he grabs Luffy and he shoves him to the ground. He's like, are you really worth 30 million? I'm gonna haul you in, kid. And then he's about to, like, you know, use his staff to, you know, impale Luffy, and Dragon just grabs it. I want you to imagine what must have been going through Smoker's mind when he looks up and he sees Dragon's face. Like, holy crap, you are literally the most wanted man in the entire world. You know, I was like, why are you even here? Right? And then, you know, Smoker and Dragon, they kind of have a back and forth where he's like, why did you let him leave, Dragon? What could you possibly have to gain? And Dragon's like, whoa, why do you think I would stop a man from following his dreams to be a pirate? And then, I mean, Smoker was probably smart enough at that point to be like, all right, I mean, I could try to fight you, but, you know, it's not going to work. In fact, Dragon, if he has, like, that weather devil fruit power we all think he has, he could just, like, blow Smoker, just a gust and just blow Smoker away, right? But yeah. So, a lot of really cool stuff that happened in Loguetown. But finally, the last place I want to talk about here was an anime-only place. I challenge you to a duel, sir. You know, no, but anime-only place, but something I really love that was added, that just added more weight to it. So, before Luffy arrives at the town square and climbs up on the scaffold where Goldie Roger was executed, he stumbles around town lost for a couple of episodes, and he ends up in a tavern just called the Gold Roger. That's the name of the bar. And the bar is pretty much empty, it's kind of run down, and the owner, Raoul, is sitting at a table just like drinking some whiskey or vodka or whatever, and he's just remembering the days of Goldie Roger, and he's talking about how he's going to be closing up shop because the pirates that have been coming through the last few years, they're just pathetic. They're nothing like what Roger was like, you know? And so this moment is really cool where Luffy is talking to this old man, is kind of at the end of his life, and he's like, yeah, he's this old grumpy old man. It's like, hey, nobody cares to hear the stories of an old man anymore. No real pirates come through these parts at this point. Glug, glug, glug. Just, I'm gonna shut this place down and then die alone and sad. You know, that's like the old man, right? And Luffy's sitting at the bar, and he's just like, I'm going to the Grand Line. I love Goldie Roger. He's great. Well, they didn't know it was Goldie Roger yet. It's still, I love Gold Roger. I can't wait to be just like him. And Raoul, he kind of like, he's sitting at the table, he's just kind of adjusting his glasses, and he sees, like, the shadowy, ghostly visage of Roger hanging out at the bar next to Luffy, and he's like, huh, kid, you make me laugh. And so, he tells him some stories about Roger. Most of them are just brought out of nowhere. Like, Roger fought against Killer Giant, and he had this giant skull on his table. Like, yeah, see, one shot from Gold Roger right between the eyes dropped him. And Silver, there was this famous gunner, and then Roger just, boom, one shot, and he was down. And so he pours Luffy a drink. Of course, Luffy's a minor at this point, so he pours just some milk, and he's like, all right, kid, we'll toast with some milk. And they have this moment where they toast, and then Luffy leaves to find the scaffold. Smoker comes in, and he was also an acquaintance with Raoul, and they talk about it. And Raoul was also shown in the flashback with the execution of Roger. Little kid Smoker was also shown there as well. I think it was later revealed that Smoker was actually raised and grew up in the Grand Line, so not the East, but whatever. I mean, it works, right? We get to see it. It's cool. And it just shows once again how some people, when they saw the execution of Roger, like, if Smoker in this timeline was present and he witnessed it as a little kid, because he would have been like 12 at that point. Yeah, he's like 35 right now, so like 24 years ago, he would have been like 11 or something like that. You know, he instead of becoming a pirate, he was just like, I'm going to become a Marine, you know, I'm going to do the thing that I'm going to catch the pirate. So it shows like different aspects of this, right? But yeah, I love that scene. And actually, that's one of the scenes where people will bring up as like, it's actually canon. Like, they actually remember it so fondly. It was filler done really, really well, is what I'm trying to say here, where people will still reference it like it actually happened. And I have to say, well, it technically didn't actually happen in the manga, but I could totally see Oda doing that or greenlighting that. I mean, it made a lot of sense. It didn't reveal that much about Roger, really. It was just like how Roger, I mean, he grew up in this town, he died there, he would obviously have a lot of people that are like old drinking buddies of his, or people that knew Roger personally. They would be somewhere in the town, right? And this old bartender, Raoul, just happens to be a man that was there. And I think in that flashback, Roger, he was just like, you know, I'm gonna go to the Grand Line tomorrow, Raoul. And Raoul's like, oh, that place. Now, Roger's been to the Grand Line plenty of times at this point, so you can adjust that. But I like to think that maybe in between adventures, Roger does go back to Loguetown every once in a while. That's his old haunts. That's the old places he grew up. So he'd be like, yeah, I want to take a break from adventuring, go back to Loguetown, you know, chill out there for a little while, and then, well, back to it. Back to the Grand Line, Raoul. Pour a round for the house. Yarg! You know, like, that's the kind of guy Roger was. Fast living, hard drinking. That's the king of the pirates, okay? But then, yeah, so after that, there's also a lighthouse, which is kind of right outside Loguetown, and the lighthouse serves as a marking point for the reverse mountain when you're approaching the mountain. That's, of course, the place where the Straw Hats all do the barrel scene, where they, you know, put their feet on the barrel, and then they crash down, and they announce their dreams, and they head out toward the reverse mountain. And I keep saying the reverse mountain, but head off toward reverse mountain into the Grand Line. And yeah, so I think if Oda, you know, messed around with a little bit more, we would have seen a lot more stuff from Loguetown, but what we got was pretty good. I like to see Buggy and Alvida again, serving as the epilogue to the prologue and the beginning of a whole new adventure, multiple chapters to come. So yeah, Loguetown is one of my favorite arcs in the East. I think back on it very fondly. You can watch the whole thing or read through the whole thing in, like, pretty quickly. I mean, I read the whole Loguetown arc last night, like, in less than, like, half hour, because it's not really much stuff. That's with me, like, taking notes and everything, so not a very long arc by any metric. But it's an important point in the story. I feel like the story would have been overall a little bit weaker if Loguetown was not included. I think that's fair to say. Alright, well, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you live in Florence, go check out the Glove Factory. Has anyone been to the Florence Glove Factory? I need to know. Let me know below if you've been there. Like, yeah, Tekking, I've been there. It's pretty fantastic. It's pretty cool. It's like Glove World from SpongeBob. I mean, they got the glove lights and the glove, like, gummies and stuff. It's a pretty great place. So I'll put that on the bucket list. You know, I want to go to England. I got to go to Akihabara, of course, because I'm a weeb, and every weeb has to make the pilgrimage to Akihabara. I'd like to go to Australia. New Zealand. I would love to go to New Zealand. Beautiful landscape. And I want to go to the Glove Factory in Florence, Italy. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out. Welcome to the Epilogue! This is just something I noticed today when I was, you know, holding the globe up, okay? Globes are not meant for educational purpose, but only decorative purpose. That's what it says. Hold on. Yeah, globes are not meant for educational purpose, but only decorative purpose. And I think what they meant was just this globe, but they used globes as plural. So that makes me think like that makes me think like it was like a flat earther that made this. Like it's their job to make globes, but they believe in the flat earth, so they're just like tacking that on the bottom of that. Like, all right, I'll make your globe, but I'm tacking a disclaimer on the bottom here. All right. So yeah, all right. There you go. Epilogue concluded. The epilogue of the prologue. Bye, everybody.